Hi, Mark. So nice to meet you.
Same here, same here, same here.
I got
You've got
Mark.
quite a combo going there. Your album's good. It's got great packaging. You know, the visuals on it really make you want to see the band.
Oh, thanks so much. Which album is that? The Scooches or?
This is it right here.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thanks so much for checking it out.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can play. Let's put it that way.
Down that wall, getting higher, something from down that wall.
Oh man, I appreciate that. It's a fun recording. It was so much that was just live in the studio on the fly and
Oh, really, really? Okay.
especially getting
Sometimes that's the way to do it.
yeah, yeah. And it was a studio with no walls, just a one room studio. Great engineer Lenny Monacello.
What's the name of the studio?
It's actually Lenny. It's actually called Soundtronics. Coincidentally, his dad and my dad were in business together many years ago, and that was the name of that company. So he's kept that name, which
Soundtronics. Oh,
I,
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
I
Okay.
get really great
No, it's,
energy from that room because it reminds me of my childhood. Yeah, they actually invented the five position switch that are in Stratocasters because
huh.
Hendrix, Clapton, all those cats were putting the switch between like notch 3 and 2, and they couldn't invent the actual five position switch. They patented the tool that converted the 3 to the 5, and that was like their tool. So the older Strats have super musical products inside, and then Lenny. Actually, the son of I actually call them they're like family to me, so I call him my cousin Lenny. His dad changed the name to Soundtronics, and then that's the name of the studio now. That's also
Okay.
in
Okay.
Queens, New York City. Great engineer, and yeah, so we were in one room, and Miles Griffith, my brother from another, and Dr. David Pleasant, and Bettina Hershey is actually my wife, the composer of that tune, and singing and playing guitar, and we just
Okay.
jammed in the studio on that one and a couple other ones on that album. Dandelion had the same vibe, and then Soar, and then some other tunes we did a little bit more individual,
Right.
multi-tracking. I overdubbed bass, and then I got some great New York City musicians. Harvey Wirtz, one of my favorite drummers, also played.
Awesome. Okay. Great.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I appreciate it. Well, yeah, I got Mark Nardone in here, and I'm just so excited to meet you and talk with you. I mean, all your interviews just seem so natural, and you've obviously been doing it for a long time. And you interviewed some of my heroes. I mean, man, John Lee Hooker and Santana, just to name a few. I grew up, learning their music and listening to them, and I did get a chance to see Santana live a few times.
The John Lee Hooker interview was interesting. It was like I just started here at the magazine, and I'm talking to him, and it's going great. And after about 20 minutes, he like he's out, he's gone, he's not answering me. I'm like, oh my god, what did I say? And then it's dial tone time, and it's like, whoa, he hung up on me. What happened? And then I called back, like, geez, I got to call back. So I called back, and his assistant guy said, oh, sorry, man, John dropped the phone. He couldn't pick it up, and he was just waiting for me, yelling for me for the last 5-10 minutes. So nothing I said. It was basically a technical glitch there, so to speak. But that was great. That was a thrill. And I got Bonnie Raitt to talk to me about him for
Wow.
the article. She called me from a supermarket payphone. This is back in 1999, 2000, I guess it was. And she goes, I love John so much. I saw your request. I just had to call you right away. And so she gave me a couple of quotes. So that was great, and yeah, the job has been great here, and the bottom line is that what we do here is special, and that we try to help people like you who, indie musicians who want to get their music out there, want to get, connected, and maybe are more artistic than they are business wise. And so we try to help them, how to get an attorney, what to say to an attorney, what to ask a prospective manager, when do you need a manager, stuff like that, and we land interviews with people who are insiders who give us their advice and insights about how they do their job. It's good. I mean, these are individual people. It's not like a monolithic wall of, record label A&R guys. Each person is an individual. They like certain things individually. One guy likes to get the music this way. One woman likes to get the music that way. So to know about them, to get that inside tip from reading our Q&As is invaluable, I think, because it gives you that, that edge. So we try to provide that every issue. We put out a print issue once a month. Been doing that since the late 70s. And then we, have a website that daily refreshes every day. We have a weekly bulletin newsletter, which has opportunities for musicians to get their music into. It might be a competition. It might be a new movie coming out looking for a certain kind of music. And we give away free.
Friday giveaway.
Yeah, Friday Freebie is very popular. We give away microphones, guitars, mastering, mixing, everything you can think of. Everything from like a couple $100 to a couple $1,000. So that usually gets a lot of traffic for us each week. And we had a podcast for a couple of years, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work. And podcasts don't seem to bring in a lot of dough. So for the amount of manpower we were putting out for it, it was like, let's put it on hiatus for a while, and maybe we'll come back to it. So in the meantime, we've partnered with other podcast entities to co-sponsor a podcast, but we're not having to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But that was fun too, to sit in the same room with Don Was and talk to him for the podcast, stuff like that. Was really cool. And we've managed to keep changing our content enough, morphing it so it's very current, and so that's you can get it anywhere you like it. If you like this, if you like that, if you like the print magazine. Some people love the print magazine. Publicists love them because they just love to drop that hard copy into their client's lap, And of course, the kid in a band who's just got signed and got a signing story in our magazine, he does that to his old man. Said, "Hey, I'm in a real magazine. Look,
Yeah.
At the same time, we're online. We have a digital edition and all that kind of stuff. So we try to cover the spectrum, and I think we do a pretty decent job.
I love the philosophy of bridging the gap between the street and the elite.
All right. That's been the mission of the magazine the whole time,
Mission. And I feel that as a musician too, just, as musicians, we love to connect with one another and play music. Like you had mentioned, some musicians are not always thinking of the business aspect. I mean, I know I'm certainly not thinking of business. And I mean, I have to wear that hat sometimes, but when you're playing music, that's the main take home, is that connecting with the musicians. And actually, I studied with Billy Bauer. He used to say, you got to be a street musician. He advocated for that, even just hearing wise, being able to hear organically and play in every key and, jump in and sight read something. And obviously you have to know all your standards. Especially I came up, a lot of my career was in the jazz world, playing jazz guitar for many different artists. So just that idea of street always resonated with me. And especially just, then you do get to play with quote unquote celebrities. I try to be mindful how I use that word because I feel that everyone is a celebrity. Everyone's mom and dad, you're a hero to them or to your guardian or to your uncle, And I think as a society, I think it's a healthier, more Zen Buddhist way to think about it. It's like we're all really.
One thing we do is that you probably know we review the music of unsigned independent artists.
Yeah.
And what I like to say basically is that, you've heard how great you are from your family, your friends. They come to your shows. They say, "Oh man, you kicked ass." Like we give you like, not, we don't slam anybody, but we give them constructive criticism if it's warranted. We let them know where they can improve their show, what was a little bit weak here, what was a little bit slow there. So our live reviews and our, we call them new music critiques, where we listen to a number of songs from a given new album by an unsigned artist. And we just give them just feedback. Our committee just listens to it, kind of just throws our ideas out there. And some people like a certain record more than others, and we give the artist and the reader, as many shades of criticism as we can, just to, always thinking to help the artist.
Right.
Most of the artists that submit to us, they don't deserve to get slammed. Occasionally there'll be one who just doesn't give a shit and will just you can tell up there on stage, they're just not respectful of the audience. And that's very rare. Most people, when they get up there, they realize it's a special time.
Right.
But if someone deserves it, we'll slam them, but usually not. What we're trying to do is indicate to them, hey, look, you're not perfect. If you're looking to be perfect, here's a couple of things you can do.
Yeah.
And that's been our mission for decades.
What content or advice have you given to musicians that you think resonates with them most, or things that you found immediately can tweak a change, whether it be like a visual performance or something with the audio production or the songs or the form of the songs or the length or
Yeah, a lot of times we'll find that like on a recording, the mix isn't ideal for this vocalist. The vocalist is kind of overwhelmed by the band, and that we respect the fact, some forms of music are just they want to be edgy, noisy, garagey, and the singer wants to kind of be just one of the other instruments. Kind of get that, but there are some singers, songwriters, and vocalists whose technical recordings and mixing is not enhancing what they do. And so we try to indicate that they should maybe go back or next time when they're recording and mixing their songs, they should address that and always keep the vocal front and center and the most powerful thing, because that's what that's who you are. You're communicating with an audience, and they can't hear your every word. You're going to tune them out.
Right.
Live performance wise, we think about sound as well. Certain bands, again, they don't. Everybody's turning up, they want to be heard, and then
Right.
nobody gets heard.
Right.
So we've done articles about the sound guy, the guy who you love to hate, but you better make friends with him when you
Right.
first walk in the club, because he's going to, really make or break your show.
That's absolutely right.
And that's why sound checks are important. And if you can do them, lucky for you. And just make sure you get it right and treat that guy or that girl right, because
Yeah.
it's an important aspect of your whole presentation. Again, a lot of it comes down to respecting your audience and realizing that they like to be brought in. They don't like to be ignored. They
Right.
like it when a singer, between songs has some banter, you know. But we also coach our readers. Look, that banter is, if it's any good, is scripted. You've got to have that worked out in your rehearsal.
Right.
Make it seem like it's just off the cuff, but you better mention your merch table, okay, and stuff like that. So we have articles that are just like 10 things to do during your next live show,
All right.
and stuff like that. And a lot of them are written by the actual artists, and that was starting with, 10 years ago, we had a singer-songwriter, Andy Grammer,
Mm.
who's now, a signed artist. He's on major label and he tours the world, but, he was a, street performer here in LA for a couple of years. And he was very popular. And so, hey, do you want to write an article for us on what to do and what not to do when you're trying to make some dough on the street? And so he gave us like an article with, like 7 or 8 tips that he's learned over the years on what works and what definitely doesn't work. And
I want to read that. I want to read that one. I'll check that out.
yeah, stuff like that is really, I think, the firsthand advice from a guy who's been on the front lines of something
Yeah.
is really valuable and has a lot of quality to it. So that's what we try to do. Is relay that information to our readers.
Yeah. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm often a side person, so I've just worked with people from every level of, visibility, with John Baptiste from the Colbert Show and Paul McCartney,
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah.
Russell Hall and Alfonso Horn. And then, when I run one of my bands, the Scooches, which I sent you the CD,
Right.
the different hat that I'm wearing, it's like, all right, now
Right.
we're on the other side of the coin, and what things can we do to build our fan base? But yeah, do you have any stories or advice about that, where you have some musicians that are doing some side people, side men or side women work with other bands that are already up at some visibility point, but then they have their own projects on the side, which may be at obviously a different level and a different, have a different mission or different work that they need to do. Do you try to give advice to bridge that gap somehow, or is it like
Yeah. We've done round table feature articles
all right?
where we interview side men or primary sidemen guys that kind of run the band for the main artist,
Right.
stuff like that. And they you know uh, some of these people have ambitions to be the guy, to be the front guy, and most of them don't. They respect the fact that that guy, whoever happens to be, is has a special quality that maybe
Yeah.
they don't quite have. It's funny you mentioned because our new issue is on a band called the Immediate Family.
Hmm.
The family is made up of sidemen, legendary sidemen like Leland Sklar, the guy with the big long beard who played Jackson Brown, Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Yeah.
All these guys are all 70 years old and they're starting their very first band
So
ever. That where they're the primary artists.
yeah.
So that was interesting. That whole angle of instead of being the revered sidemen, who are playing with all these legends, you're the guys out front now. You're singing, you're dancing, you're doing the whole presentation,
Yeah.
and they've obviously, been raring to go for decades. They finally got their opportunity, and so we talked to them about that. Waddy Wachtel, I don't know if you know who he is.
Sounds
He's the
familiar.
guy with the long blonde hair, the glasses. He's been in Keith Richards' band.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a kind of a first call guy to put a band together for an event. He's sort of like a music director as well. And Danny Korchmar, he's a guitar player.
Yeah.
Again, Carole King, James Taylor, all these singer songwriter types and rockers that these guys have played with for decades. And during the pandemic, they got an itch to scratch, and it was, hey, let's do our own band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it came together, and they actually, because these guys had co-written material with the big timers,
Yeah.
so they did have some songwriting chops, and they decided to just funnel all that into this entity called the Immediate Family. And so that's our current cover. So it's funny you mentioned the sideman thing
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's what a lot of the article is about. So it's on our website. You can check it out right now. It's feature story, and so yeah, we try to show also there's just like so many niches you can fill in the
Yeah.
music industry. Most people, like I went to film school. Everybody wanted to be a director.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be the sound man or the director of photography, the editor. They all want to be direct. And like everybody can't be the
That
star,
one role. Right. Right.
in rock and roll and in music.
Right.
And even in like audio engineering.
Yeah.
We have an article in the current issue, which is about audio forensics. I've been watching like Law and Order during the pandemic, and like every now and then there'll be this like audio engineer guy in some lab someplace, and they're listening to tapes of people talking and phone conversations, and they're the guy's trying to pull out a certain voice from the thing so they can hear more. I'm going, that's where did this guy come from? He's got a background in audio engineering. So we did an interview with a couple of guys, and just there's another thing you can do. Maybe if you're a recording engineer and you're not working full time, this might be a little niche you can fill. Why don't you call the FBI or something, or call the local police department, see if they contract audio engineering. What we found out from this guy was most of his work comes from publishing companies and recording companies where they're in a sort of like litigation to find out if somebody sampled something
All right.
from their catalog and
Yeah.
didn't pay them for it. So this guy's charged with going in there and digging down through all the morass of sound and finding that sample and IDing it as the exact same audio from something that was made in 1972.
Wow.
So that's one thing he's been doing, and that's something that I think most people who are going to recording school right now have never thought about.
Right.
So
Right.
we try to come up with fun little angles like that, and there's plenty of people out there who want to talk. So we find them and we interview them.
In your life, what made you transition from wanting to be a director into interviewing and writing and putting out.
Yeah, I always wanted to write. That was always like the bottom line. I wanted
Yeah,
to be a screenwriter more than I wanted to be a director.
yeah,
And, I wrote several screenplays and got things almost made, came right down to the wire, had the cast, had the director, and somebody dropped out, some key element dropped out because things take so long
yeah,
to come to fruition in the film business that inevitably somebody, some primary person, whether it's the actor or director, drops out, and suddenly one of the investors says, "Well, I'm out of here if he can't be here." So that became very frustrating to me, and I started writing some publicity for record labels because a friend of mine was doing it in New York, and he said, "Hey, you can write this stuff. Your writing's good. You can do press releases and bios and all that kind of stuff." So eventually, I got hired by Rick Rubin's label out here, American Recordings, and they came up with a newsletter, and I wrote probably half of the stuff in there, and had a lot of fun attitude to it. And I was interviewing Johnny Cash and Lucinda Williams and it's just people who were in the heat of their careers, and so it was a lot of fun, and so I started getting more and more work in that regard, and my wife wanted me to get a full-time job, so when something came available at Music Connection, I just followed up, and although I never had any full-time editorial job, they liked me a lot. They liked my background and my demeanor, so
yeah.
they gave me a shot as the associate editor, and then I became a senior editor, soon after that. So yeah, it's just been, you know, it's been a real. What's great about the job is how the business has evolved over the years.
Yeah.
That's made the job into a different job in so many ways. So I feel like I've worked in several different places, but even though I've stayed in the same place, and a lot of it's been challenging. Magazines have gone down the tubes, but our competition mostly is gone. We're still here, so we've managed to be pretty nimble about things. We've pared down our staff, we've spent money wisely, and we've really found, that we do have a real important niche. And there's always a new generation of young musicians coming up who get to a point in their career where they go, I want to be serious about music, and I better start educating, myself. And how can I do that? And we're always there, you know. Plenty of people, pass our mag along to these younger kids, and so we have a new generation always coming up. So that's really helped us, and obviously diversifying, what we do. Like I was telling you earlier, we have different ways to get our information out.
Yeah, that must be
You know, yeah. So it's like there's so many things, that so many ways people can take advantage of what we have to offer, and we just keep doing that. And we do email blasts on behalf of certain advertisers we have, and that's very popular. That brings in some dough, so that keeps us. So
Yeah.
we're not getting rich here, but we're doing okay.
Yeah. Do you
So
offer that service for musicians too? Like if they wanted an email blast to get their album out there and
absolutely, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
cool.
sure. And we have special artist rates, that are uh, better than. And what we also do is we also provide advertising opportunities. If we review your show or review your independent music, and we say, we have an issue coming out. Would you like to buy a half-page ad? Artist rate, very reasonable. And so we get several artists per issue
Yeah.
that want to do that. And so again, all these different revenue streams they're not humongous, but they're enough to keep us, flush enough to continue to do this magazine, which we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we just also we want people when they pick up any copy or when they look at our website, it's not like we're not just like a rock site, or we're not just a jazz site, or we're not just a
Diverse.
pop site, we're not just a hip hop site. We want people to find their thing, with one click,
Yeah.
something of interest to them, because
Yeah.
it's such. I mean, music is so niche oriented now
Yeah.
that you do have to really have a spectrum of stuff in every issue that caters to that. And we've always done that. I've as the editor have always been mindful of doing that. And it seems like lately, with everything the country's been going through the past year or two, everybody's mindful of that now. But we've been doing that I think, pretty well for years. So we realized, hey, we need to, in order to stay alive, we need to appeal to all musicians in some way.
Yeah.
So that's why what we try to do with a lot of our feature articles is we don't want to do it only about a certain genre of music. It's usually an idea that we can where it's an idea that appeals to everybody, whether it's like music publishing
Yeah.
or A&R roundtable. If we get A&R people from different labels to talk to us, and we ask them questions about all aspects of the business, and we get A&R people from the hip hop world, A&R people from the rock world, jazz world, independent world, pop world. Try to get as many perspectives as we can,
Yeah.
and get that first hand knowledge that all these people have, and because that's so invaluable. Nowadays there's less networking going on,
Mm.
less face to face, right?
Right.
More of doing what we're doing right now.
Right.
And so I think a lot of musicians are still in their bedroom.
Right.
They're still in their own world, and they're not able to get out there and meet people. I
Right.
mean, it's so important to meet people.
Yeah.
One person leads to another, leads to another. You know that. I mean, you were talking earlier about your so-called cousins and stuff. These are people, they're not related to you, but you've met them one way or another through your family. They, turns out, are in the audio business, and one thing leads to another, and it's so important. We all can help each other in some way. We all have a key or two that we can lend to somebody to move on, and
That's really true.
that's what we're trying to do here at Music Connection, is really provide those kind of things, and give somebody an entree to an individual they can call up or
Yeah.
go see somehow. So that's I think we're doing okay.
It's amazing. That's
Yeah.
actually how I got the Jimmy McGriff gig, because I went to the American Legion, which is a jam session run by Celino Clark, who passed away. Great organ jam session, and man,
Mhm.
so many great players would come through there. But one time I was just there playing. I had no idea that Jimmy McGriff's manager was there, and I got a call, from a business card, 8, 9 months later. Do you want to go on the road with Jimmy McGriff? And I'm like, wow,
Right.
that's incredible. So those things are important, like you said.
Yeah.
Get out and meet people, and make yourself known. But on the other side of the coin too, it's also good to. I give this advice to musicians: is students, I should say, is also just be really kind to everyone. And if somebody's too pushy, then it's a little bit of a turn off. Like sometimes people come to
Right.
New York City, you could tell, oh, they're the new cat in town. They're just going to everyone's gigs, wanting to sit in, wanting to take jobs away from other musicians. When they have that kind of vibe,
Right.
it's a little bit tricky. But when they're cool and they're really respectful, then
Right.
the New York City, or and it's can happen in any town. The local musicians want to embrace that. Like, yeah, let me put you on this gig. How about you sub for me? Because you've been so kind and respectful, and then you can
I'll
help each
say,
other
yeah,
out.
I totally agree. I mean, I think, look, the world is made up of different people, many, and whatever works for you, works for you. But I mean, I think one thing that was really impressive this week was when the Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts died.
Yeah,
And he was a big jazz fan, as you know, probably. And,
and
you
respect it.
know, this guy had such respect and such warmth from so many people, all these tributes coming in. I mean, and this is no surprise. You heard this through the years. What a nice gentleman he was. What a sweet guy. He was the one Rolling Stone who would talk to anybody. He'd go into a record store and talk to the guy who was stocking the shelves and give him a list of things he's looking for. I mean, he was just a cool guy who just didn't need to, be brash or,
Yeah,
what you were saying earlier, just have a lot of attitude. It just, it does ultimately get you farther, I think, um, by using kindness and just
yeah,
civilized behavior.
right.
I think people sit up and take notice of that. Hey, that guy is a nice guy,
Yeah,
as opposed to, wow, what a dick,
yeah,
why,
yeah,
who does he think he is,
right.
I mean, sometimes they make movies about those dicks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Those guys,
yeah,
sometimes you're just like, so you're always going to have one or two, to deal with. But, there's something to be said for people who, because plus since music is such a as you know, you're in groups, right? I mean, you have to get along.
Get along, yeah.
It's so hard to be in a band. It's easy to be a solo artist. You call on the shots all the time. You're the honcho, but yeah, so many bands that just
Yeah.
have so many different personalities that clash,
That's right. Yeah.
and then they break up. Talented people that had something special, and they break up.
Yeah.
It just shows you how important it is if people just chill out
That's
and
right.
be cool,
Yeah.
and realize, this is you're in something for the long haul. You're
Yeah.
going to develop, and if you don't get your way this time, there's always another time.
Yeah.
Um, it's maturity, I think, and
Yeah.
so many bands are young, they don't get that, so they're just doing what they do. It's off the cuff, but I think, I think Charlie Watts was a great role model for people to, you know, carry themselves, as a musician.
I'm reading the Smiths tapes, a book that I just got recently, and Smith is interviewing John Lennon and Yoko, and John talks
Uh-huh.
about he asked about the Beatles not getting along, and John really clarified a lot of things. Says, we're all just different. Talking about the media exaggerating, but I love John
Right.
Lennon's vibe in this interview. It's an incredible book. He's interviewed so many people, and I listened to I read the Joe Cocker interview and Sly and the Family Stone
Uh,
interview. I've been getting deeper into finding my dad had a band in the '60s called the Scarecrow, and he was the opening
uh,
act for Sly and the Family Stone. He's passed away now.
oh yeah.
So I've been re-inspired now because I have kids. I have boy girl twins, and my son
Oh wow.
is really into Sly. And so anyway, the reason why I got some of these books recently is to kind of dive in and do some of the research and see, like, is there like a poster from like 67, 68 with my dad's band, and Sly. I
Oh
don't.
yeah.
Babb Feldman was their producer. Babb Feldman was the gap
Oh
between
yeah.
the Scarecrow and also the band Kiss, because my dad's
Oh okay.
face makeup as well. So yeah, I read that
Oh
I
wow.
got the book, the Smith tapes, and then there's another author, Joel Selvin, who wrote a book about Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah, yeah. He's good. Yeah.
So that book is out of print. So I think I finally got a copy through a Canadian bookstore through Amazon. So we'll see,
Wow.
see if it reliably shows up. I had to send it to a friend of mine, a great bass player named Brandy Disterhalf, because she has family in Canada. So I had to ship it to Canada, see if it makes it this way. But anyway, I brought that up to also ask you: did you ever get a chance to interview Sly or any of the members of Sly and the Family Stone?
I came close because I went to an event. It was featuring a P-Funk
Oh wow!
and George Clinton, right? Which this is wild.
He
It
just
was
played.
at
He just
some
played in my neighborhood the other day in Forest Hills,
no
Queens.
kid. Oh yeah, great. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and like I'm just standing out. Everybody's standing out in the audience. It's like the Microsoft Theater or something in LA, and it was promoting something. I forget what it was. And the band was up there like 27 people, and George just started walking out in the audience, and he like handed me the mic during Atomic Dog,
Wow!
and like that. Okay, I know that lyric, Atomic Dog. So he let me sing a little bit, and
Wow!
then after the show, um, Sly Stone showed up, and it was like, who's this guy? He's got like a wicked mohawk, and it's like, and I didn't recognize him at all. And
Yeah.
I'd heard stories about Sly, being a little bit, you know, eccentric, let's say, and living in a motorhome and not being, someone you could really do. So he was talking to George. They were sitting at a table. They were talking, and felt like, wow, it'd be so great to get an interview with him. I haven't heard from him in years.
Yeah.
So I got physically close to the guy, but they were talking, and I didn't feel like I should butt in.
Yeah.
But
There's
we
that,
got
that
George.
balance we talked about, like the balance of like not being too pushy, because who knows, you
Yeah, yeah,
could have not had
yeah.
you because so it's hard to gauge that
Oh,
situation.
yeah. We interviewed George. We got George for a cover, and he was great. He's a great interview, and sweet guy. And so I saw something interesting. This is something you've never seen, you don't see every day. I went to a benefit show, and George Clinton and Jackson Brown did a duet.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you wouldn't think that would happen ever,
Yeah.
right? But it was a benefit for a drummer who had cancer or something, and they
Wow.
somehow they put them up there together. It was like, okay, you know, talk about widely diverse, audiences and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
forth. But they pulled it off. That was fun. But yeah, he was a great interview. But Sly didn't have anything, musically coming out, anything new. It was, the story I was always reading was about his back catalog and how he was not getting the money he was supposed to get, supposedly, and but he has really interesting career. I mean, he started out as a Bay Area producer.
Yeah.
He produced the Beau Brummels.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he produced their two hit singles, and yeah, so he had that whole different thing going on before he became Sly,
Yeah.
and yeah, great band, great band. I mean, you hear those songs on the radio now, and you go, wow, these are still good, and they're just so happy and just full of life, So, but yeah, I know his daughter is a DJ out here in LA
Wow.
on KCRW radio. She has the morning show with another DJ, and she's great, great voice. Her name is Novena,
Oh,
and I know she's one of his kids. But yeah, no, that would be an interesting interview. Getting him,
yeah.
you know. I haven't read one with him in a long time, so I don't think he's giving many.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I love the interview on the Dick Cavett show, Dick and Sly. That's a great one. Sly talks about writing.
Never seen that. Never seen that.
It's
Oh
great.
wow.
I could send it to you. It's on YouTube, but Sly talks about writing in the mirror. He says he likes to write in the mirror to see the expression on his face. But Dick and him
Uh,
go back and forth with comedy, and it
that
seems
sounds
very
great.
organic. It's super.
Yeah. Well, he was notorious though for showing up 2 hours late to a show. Yeah, I mean that was just how he did. Apparently, I worked on a movie production for a Woodstock movie kind of thing, but like 20 years after Woodstock, like late 80s. Mike Love was one of the producers, and the guy who directed Woodstock, Michael Wadley, was going to direct this
Wow.
shebang. It ended up not happening, but um, it was like, I'm trying to think now. It was well, was it Sly? It was something to do with Sly Stone, trying to get him, engaged for this. It was a global event. It was like a Live Aid sort of thing. The concept was to have all these artists playing at these monumental places around the planet, like the Great Pyramids and stuff like that. They were trying to get him to be a performer. Great, what a great comeback for him, right? But Michael Wadley said that when they filmed Woodstock, the movie, and Sly was one of the great performers, they unplugged his keyboard. Like, oh yeah, we know, or the band sound, because no, we usually don't. We usually unplug his thing anyway. He's not. We can't trust him to play the right stuff. He gets kind of crazy during a show, and so yeah, Sly were the band has basically got their shit together. Sly he's the entertainer, the performer. We don't really need to hear his keyboard. So that was interesting to find out that they unplugged his organ.
Oh,
You
wow.
know,
Wow.
but that was probably one of the greatest sets from Woodstock. It happened at night, prime time,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
unforgettable stuff. So,
Is
but
there,
yeah,
is there a clip of that performance? Or maybe I could find that. Of Sly's performance.
probably is. Oh yeah. I'm sure you can find that. That's one of the highlights of the movie. It's a 3-hour movie,
Yeah.
but that's one of the highlights. And but yeah, he's an interesting guy, definitely, and
Yeah.
wish him the best.
Yeah. And also wanted to ask you, what was it like interviewing Carlos Santana? I know he's very positive and very spiritual,
He
and
was a great guy.
yeah.
He was a great guy. Very very easy to talk to. Very he was just about to release Supernatural.
Oh, wow, cool.
And so, because a friend of mine was working for Arista in New York, he says, Marcus, I don't know. He says, you got to interview Santana because this record's going to be huge. I go, really? Santana album's going to be huge? And because it was, it faded quite a bit as far as being a record launcher. And now he says, we're really putting a lot of effort in this. Clive Davis is his number one project for the past year, and we got some really major people working with them. So I said, okay, so we did a cover story on Santana. So he was just like fantastic. He really was like one of the most gracious people to talk to. Very calm and cool, and answered every question, gave me some great material, and
Yeah.
so I'll always remember him for that. He was just a gentle, easygoing dude. You know,
Was it in
uh,
person or was it over the phone? Or
yeah, the publicist wanted to fly me to New York to talk to him,
wow.
but and I wish I could have done that then, but I was so busy doing this job, I couldn't imagine taking a day or two off.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, to leave the office because I just started the job like within that year,
Right.
and it was nuts. I was up to my eyeballs in work, and there were people coming out of the woodwork every day. Writers who were, writers, freelance writers are caged up all day, so they would love to come into the office and hang out with me for half an hour and get their mail and talk and shoot shit, and
Yeah.
it was like great, but like I got to get work done. I got stuff to do. And that was back when the phone was ringing off the hook. Phone doesn't ring that much now. It's all you know all the internet, all email. But back then it was like, Mark, line three. And then of course, when publicists would get you on the phone, finally they would go, oh, and while I've got you here, let me tell you about this other client I have.
Oh, right,
It's
right.
great news. You're on the phone for 15, 20 minutes with the same person. But so I was like, God, I can't imagine taking the time
Right.
we should probably do this on the phone.
Yeah.
So we did it over the phone, and it was great. He was really, really, really a memorable chat we had.
That's super cool. And that's
Yeah,
when you first got the job with Music Connection?
yeah, it was like within 6 months or so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and you know, yeah, it was just crazy time because I had never done the job before. And it was so
Yeah.
much to do.
Are you still working on some of your screenplays and movies at night when you
Yeah,
have time off and
yeah.
weekends
When I
and
finally got the job under control, um, but mainly what I was doing was I had a couple of my previous screenplays that had already gotten some traction. I was still working them, and
yeah.
had a couple of producers who were working them. So that sometimes I'd have to do some revision or something to make somebody happy. But this job was so all-consuming. Well, with being in the office and also going out at night, going to see a show,
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on the weekend, so it really did take away from my personal writing time. And, I just wanted to put everything I had into this job and get it and do it right,
Yeah.
because, when I came on here, I was an unknown factor. There were writers who'd been working on the magazine for years, and they're like, "Who is this guy?
Yeah, right.
Where did he come from? Why didn't they hire so I had a lot to prove, so it's kind of trial by fire time, but I think I did it well enough that everybody was happy.
Yeah.
And, um, like I said before, the magazine has evolved and it's kept the job very interesting,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of challenges that we've had to overcome. And, so, I mean, knock wood, we're still doing it. And, there'll be challenges to come, but we're just going to keep hammering away, you know.
And when you
Uh,
interview people, do you have any advice or do you have any like organic way? Because your interviews seem so organic to me, but or do you start off real planned out and then you make changes, or is it more on the fly or a combination of both?
no, you can't go in on the fly usually. I mean, occasionally, when we've had a situation where, well, Bruno Mars he's just sitting at home all day today. He's got nothing to do. Do you want to interview him today?
Yeah.
So our writer that I signed to that really good seat of the pants guy, he took the thing and ran with it and was just because he knew enough about Bruno Mars at that time. It's like 10 years ago, and he did a great interview. And a lot of it's just the first 5-10 minutes is just small talk. Just talking about life. And getting warmed up. And one thing we like to do when we talk to people is we want like because they do so many interviews. A lot of these artists, we try to reset their brain and say, okay, this is not a People magazine article. We don't care about what kind of car you drive, what
Right.
kind of how your wife's doing.
Right.
This is all about you as an artist
Yeah.
and your career and the business side of it in some cases. And so we really want to delve into that only. So we're not going to talk about anything personal. unless you want to,
You say that
so
up front, like before the.
yeah, we get, because not everybody knows Music Connection, so we kind of want them to know from jump, hey, this is this kind of interview. It's not like,
Yeah.
'cause sometimes you get people who are doing a day's worth of interviews. They've been doing it since 10 a.m. They're going to do it until 4 or 5. So they're, some they kind of, by the time you get to them, they're kind of on autopilot, and they're giving you the same answer they gave the guy before you.
Yeah.
So we try to sort of like, like I said, just give them a little bit of a talking to about what we're about and what we're hoping to learn from this person, who has so much experience in the business, and can help other artists
Yeah.
like himself or herself. Like we interviewed Nora Jones recently for a cover story. She's had a lot of ups and downs in her career, and associated with a lot of different artists, and it's got a lot of respect from people in the music business. So, we honor that, and we go poking around all through her career, and especially her most recent album, because they all want to talk about that, of course. So yeah, we usually get the information we need, because we upfront, let people know. If you let people know what you want from them in a phone call, you'll usually get it.
Yeah.
And they'll skip the other stuff that they've
Right.
already talked about. Yeah.
I did a Zoom call, a Zoom meeting with a bunch of other people with Anushka, her sister. And I've
Right.
always been a fan of indie music. I actually studied with Samir Chatterjee on my album Row. I can't remember if I sent you that, but I actually has a Teen Tal Tukra. So I've always loved her dad, Ravi Shankar, is incredible. And
Right.
through the music connection, I think some Brooklyn musicians that I know work with Nora on our first record. It's been a while since I connected with those musicians. So I know she has that New York connection, that Brooklyn connection.
Right. Oh yeah.
And obviously the general public, a lot of them don't know that Ravi is her dad.
Right.
But yeah, it's an incredible family. Her sister is amazing, and the Zoom call was like a bunch of people. Anushka was talking about her new album and also advocating for women in the music industry, and saying that through my dad, my sister and I have always met a lot of men, just because of the nature of my dad's colleagues and musician friends. So she said
Right.
it's natural for her to have male musicians in the band. So her sister was excited about her new record,
Okay.
advocating for more women in the band, and not
Yeah.
being contrived, but just naturally.
Right. Sure. Yeah, it's one thing we're trying to do with the magazine here, is that we've always been focused on it, conscious of it, of having, you know, let's always keep a lookout for female audio engineers.
Yeah.
There aren't many out there, but there are some. So now there's an organization of women in music who, they're producers and mixers and so forth, and they're out there, and most of the requests we get for interviews are from male, publicists who are repping male technical people, because that's, most of them are male. But we're always looking for, the female, um, um, whether it happens to be, an executive, an A&R person, or a studio manager. Quite a few female studio managers. That seems to be a niche that females occupy more than males. So we'll do a roundtable of studio managers every now and then, and more of them are female than male. But we're always looking for the outlier, and we're finding them. If you put the word out there, you'll definitely. Or you talk to a female engineer, and you say, hey, I'm looking for another female engineer for maybe another interview down the line. Do you know anybody? Oh yeah, I know like this person and that person, and they've worked on big shows, and she does live sound for somebody. So before you know it, you've got this whole network of female engineers that
I know it
you
starts
know
off with
about.
conversations and connections, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that.
exactly.
I love that Santana. I'm reading his book, Universal Tone. He turned down the revival of Woodstock because he said, "Hey, there's no women-led bands. There's not as many African American bands." And they called him back and said, "All right, Carlos, we have some more women-led bands. We have some more diversity, and then he accepted it on the second
Okay,
time.
okay.
I really looked up to him. That really resonated with me. And I play. I'm a side person with Russell Hall's. It's called Bessie and the Rainbow Kids.
Russo, y'all.
Incredible bass player from Kingston, Jamaica. We
Oh,
played
yeah.
the tribute to Bob Marley at Lincoln Center before the pandemic. But that's why his band is called the Rainbow Kids. It's very diverse, and he has both men and women in the band, African American, Caucasian, Asian, transgender. So he embraces all culture,
Great.
all
Yeah.
races. And it really, and again, it's not contrived. These are just from a law of attraction. He's such a kind person, and he just gravitates towards kindness and open-mindedness. That's why him and I are like brothers from others. I actually interviewed him as well. And I normally don't do this. This is very new to me. I'm the musician out down in the in the street, playing. So before the pandemic, I was doing 2 to 3 gigs a day and then traveling. So this inspired me by doing more stuff at home, like you had talked about. So I kind of redefined some of the things I've been doing. So yeah, it's wonderful to talk about this, and these little conversations lead to more job placement for women and more diversity in the music industry.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend, and we just want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
And we've been a part of it for years, and we just want to continue to do that,
Yeah.
And I think we're on track.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what all of you are doing is incredible.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, this has been great. Wow, Mark, you said so many inspiring things. This is incredible. I'll make sure when I post it, I'll put the link, musicconnection.com, and I'll chat with you before if you want me to add anything else. If you have,
Thank you. Yeah. Send people our way. I mean, share it far and wide. We say,
yeah, of course,
because we started out as an LA centric publication
yeah,
that came out every 2 weeks, and was mainly, it was patterned on Backstage, which
Yeah.
was for actors. Actors wanting to get gigs, right? And it was like a listing of where auditions were and stuff. So one of our co-founders, he was a musician, a coffee house guy. He's like, there's nothing like that for musicians. I'm going to start a magazine, for musicians. And so we did. And the first what do you call it? The first edition
yeah.
of Music Connection was 12 pages.
Wow.
And the first ad you saw when you flipped the page was a giant full page ad of it was a illustration of a roach smoking a joint. And it was for a head shop. So how far ahead was Music Connection then?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, pot was way before being legal back then.
Yeah.
And so that's a funny issue. That was the first issue of the magazine, and then it just
Do you have
blossomed.
that somewhere? Do you have that framed?
Yeah, we have a few. They're free. They're all for sale. We have our whole back catalog.
Oh, cool.
Our website has a section where we show certain highlights through the years of different covers we've had, and all those magazines are available for purchase for like $4 for a back issue kind of thing, and they're all great because they really show what the music scene was like in Los Angeles back then, and it was about 10, 12 years ago that we went national, and we became a monthly print magazine, and of course, a daily website and the newsletter and all that kind of stuff. And, we really, just again, like I said, I'm trying to keep as current and far and forward thinking as possible, because this business just keeps changing all the time. And you just can't be more, you got to be attentive to all those little changes that are coming, even though it seems to have taken forever for streaming to become the thing, since Napster happened back in the day. It's things are just happening. New companies are arising, new apps for musicians. There's so many things for our readership who are mainly, indie musicians to make a living, at their music. If they're just smart. And there's plenty of people out there, who write books about it, and we get them to write articles for us. And So it's there's just a real one. It's never going to be easy to be a musician.
Yeah.
It's not, don't become a musician if you think it's going to be all,
Yeah, we work hard.
glamour, glamour and high times. You
Yeah.
got to work your ass off
Yeah.
to be successful at it. And there's going to be ups and downs, and it's only the super lucky person that actually becomes a hit when they're young,
Yeah.
and you have to really love it. You have to really love it. And if you don't love it, if you think you're just going to throw your thing up on TikTok and that's all there is to it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, there's a lot more to it, man. And if you're going to have a career,
Yeah.
you really need to do what you've done. Obviously, that instrument you're holding, back and forth. You can play it in your sleep,
Yeah. That's right.
and you probably have played it in your sleep. It's like that's the kind of person that, that's successful because you just are so invested in it and your entire being.
Yeah.
And that's what's good about today, is that they're now, you don't have to now depend only on that manager and that record label to
Oh
get
yeah.
to go. If you can have a nice little career, in your region at first, and then maybe you can go national, but you can become like a popular artist,
Yeah.
to a lot of people who would pay to see you play, would pay for your music,
Yeah.
buy your T-shirt, buy your panties, whatever you're selling. The merch thing is a big deal nowadays. So we do articles on that too. We do articles
There's so
about.
many hats to wear too. Like I wrote 2 books for the group Metallica for Cherry Lane
Oh
Music,
yeah,
and that was a gig that I landed
oh
after I got
yeah,
my master's in music. And then they asked me to do a children's book for Metallica. I only turned it down because I was so busy with the books. You know how it is as an
right,
editor, that I was like, man, I'm turning down gigs because I wanted to do a good job with the book. So I eventually turned
right.
down subsequent books, and but I still have it on my bio. And then they asked me to edit. I edited 2 books for them, which I thought was more fun because I played through them. One was our arpeggios, one was another book, I think on
Okay,
scales or something. But then I didn't go in that direction. I went, and I really wanted to be performing, especially in the jazz world. It's very competitive, so I wanted to really be
right.
with as many jazz legends as possible, especially them getting older, and then people a lot of people that I play with have passed away, like Jimmy McGriff and Jimmy the Preacher Robbins, and
Yeah.
I used to play in Teddy Charles's band, the Vibes player with
Oh,
Miles
okay. Wow.
Davis, so
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but the point being is you can wear so many hats and still be a full-time musician.
Right.
I was
Right.
writing the book for a
Right.
while, then I went back to my studio gigs,
Yeah.
traveling, and on a side note, I didn't want to forget to tell you before we say goodbye is one of my really good friends is Michael Valerio, who's in LA. He's John Williams' right-hand man. He's the bass player
Oh,
in all those soundtracks. So
really? No kidding.
Terminator and
Huh.
Star Wars. So since I started
Wow.
doing these, he's one of my people that I interviewed. So I'll send you the link when
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Sure.
we
Yeah.
play.
Those are the kind of people that we would always look for.
Yeah, yeah,
We haven't put out a guitar issue in a while because we went from 23 issues a year to 12, and did the print thing, and we used to do a guitar issue, a keyboard issue, a drums issue every year.
oh cool,
I miss those because we used to do roundtables with players,
yeah,
and we would always look for like those under the radar people, like
yeah,
your
yeah.
bass player, that have
Yeah, if
had
you
a
need a
long.
bassist, should let me know because Michael Valerio and Brandy Disterhalf, Russell Hall. Russell Hall is
Mhm.
incredible. Essie at Essie
Okay.
from Nigeria. And it's interesting too. The other hat I wear is I play a lot of banjo gigs. So I play banjo and Home Depot
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in a lot
It's
of
interesting.
different movies. I'm in the new movie called a new TV show called Billy Buys Brooklyn. So kind of
Oh yeah.
story that's going to be on Discovery Channel and some other like international things, and then another one.
Oh, cool.
Oh, the Chaperone. I'm in the Chaperone. I brought my old 1930 Gibson, like the same one Robert Johnson has, and a banjo. So my colleague and I
Wow.
are both in that in the
No
openings.
kidding.
So as a musician, you also do those sort of things too. You play different instruments. So, but when I
Right.
started playing banjo many years ago, and I joined Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks band, that was led me to a lot of other
Yeah.
gigs and playing ragtime and early jazz. And
Wow. Wow. No, that's really that's one thing that's clear is that you have to be open to many different
yeah,
tangents in your career. You can't say I'm only going to play
yeah,
guitar.
right.
Well, what about mandolin? What about banjo? What about
Right, right.
playing events where they're looking for a banjo player? That's
Yeah,
and
that's
that banjo is going to take you in a musical direction that you never thought you'd go before.
right.
You'll become a more knowledgeable player. There's just so many things that if you remain open to them. Again, if you're a nice guy, like you obviously are a nice guy, you're easy to work with.
Mhm.
People embrace you,
Yeah,
and you get to do these things that you never thought you would do.
yeah.
So that's something that you know, a lot of some people have, and some people have that quality, some people don't.
Yeah.
But that's a good quality to have.
And you
Just,
welcomed that
just
as well too. When you were a filmmaker and a director, you got that opportunity. You said, "Hey, I can write," and you still kept
right,
passion. You still worked on your
exactly.
screenwriting.
Yeah, no, and plus, when I was a little kid, I was a drummer.
Oh, that was my
So
first instrument too.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I was a drummer, and
You
my
play
parents.
drums in school?
From when I was 10 years old to when I was 15.
That's so cool.
Then I got into sports more than music. But yeah, I was a drummer, really into. First started on cardboard boxes, and then they said,
Yeah,
"Okay,
me
I'm
too.
gonna get you a real drum." Got me a snare, and then they got me a real kit. Because I was really infatuated with all the drums in the windows of
Yeah.
the place on the highway that had like 3 stories tall of drums. And yeah, so but I mean, at that age, I just couldn't find anybody to play with. There were no kids.
Yeah.
There might be one kid played very rudimentary guitar or something, but as far as getting a band going, so I was just playing to records in the basement mostly. That was most of my playing, and so I gave it up. And then, but later on in life, when I moved out here, I had a lot of friends who were musicians, and they were in bands that were trying to make it, trying to be signed. But they also said, "Oh, I want to start a band that's just for fun." On the side, and we just want to play this kind of thing. So I was in a couple of those bands, and so we played out at clubs like Whiskey. We played Raji's. We played, some Coconut Teaser. These are like very well-known places in Hollywood,
Yeah.
and
You
it
playing
was it was
drums?
a blast.
You playing drums in
Yeah,
those?
I played the drums, and it was like I'm not a great drummer, but I can keep time,
Yeah.
you know. And what we were playing mostly was garage rock that we loved,
Yeah.
from '60s and '70s, and but it was that those 2 bands were just bands that we were doing as an outlet to just have a blast,
Yeah.
you know. Meanwhile, they had their other bands that were more serious, more like a business. And yeah, it's a funny thing was the band that I was in, because we weren't really taking it seriously when we were playing really cool songs, eh, that became more successful than the guys' other bands. It got more of a reaction. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
People were coming out, and local writers were writing about it, and it was great. But it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
It was a great outlet. And
You're doing
but
it for the
but
right you're doing it
again,
for the right reasons. You were enjoying it and just playing it for the enjoyment.
yeah, we recorded a little bit, like 4-track thing. And long story short, those 2 experiences really, again, helps me in my job doing what I'm doing now, because I understand what it's like to be in a band,
Yeah.
even though, I didn't do it for very long. It's hard, especially if you're a drummer or a bass player, you're lugging this heavy equipment around.
In the
You,
rain.
you, it's physically demanding,
Yeah, it is.
and in the rain, bad weather, and you get to a club and you're supposed to go on at 10, but no, that they got to mix up, and you got to go on at 12:30, and
Right, right,
so all this kind of stuff. And or that guy from the record label was supposed to show up, but he didn't show up.
right.
It's like, it's like, there's just so much energy that gets expended, that you just got to commit, and so I understand that.
One of
I
my
get
favorite
like,
TV shows is Flight of the Conchords, where everything goes wrong in that band.
yeah,
Are you a fan of
yeah, no, it's
the Conchords?
it happens. Yeah, for sure.
So
No,
much.
it definitely happens, and
Yeah,
you got it. I mean, you just need to roll with it. And
yeah,
I never had to travel in a van
yeah,
and all that that's got to be hell.
yeah.
Just all that riding hours and hours between shows, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun at times, but it sounds like especially if you have to get up early to go do an interview at a radio station or something, and you just want to be in bed. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's you have to have a passion for it,
Yeah.
or it's not going to work, and so that's the warning shot that we we try to convey to our readers sometimes too. You
Right,
know,
right. Are you in it for the
maybe
long
it's
haul? Do you it's not as glamorous as
right,
it seems.
right. Yeah,
Right.
we definitely try to keep, a realistic point of view in our articles. We're not hyping the business, definitely want to show that it's takes a commitment on the part of the players and on the part of their support people.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It
So
seems like
it's
you
it's
have a down to
definitely
earth vibe. I mean, you have a down to earth vibe, and I think it presents that way even on the website itself. It seems like approachable, from a musician point of view. Like, hey, let me check out
mhm,
that media and see how I can interact with it. It definitely seems more user friendly than I've seen other websites and other
right.
entities.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's just just I mean, again, it comes out of networking. I mean, finding the people that you vibe with, and that
Yeah,
that and have good sense and can lead you in the right direction,
yeah, yeah.
is so important. So good luck to everybody out there.
Yeah.
Um, you've
This has been
chosen
great.
a difficult path, but a very rewarding one if you get the breaks.
Right. And even without the breaks, even just the process alone is such a fun experience. It's a ticket. I've had some musician friends say to me, "What we do for a living, it's like a ticket to see the world and connect with all these people." And the process is,
Right.
I embrace the
Sure.
process.
Sure.
I really believe in not lighting the spark and not so much filling the cup. Like that lighting the spark, really the
Right.
inspiration and the process of it. The journey is definitely more of the
Yeah. True.
of it.
But that's a very mature point of view. Like some younger kids might be, they just want to get gratified immediately, and this is not the career for them, probably.
Even some
You
adults
know.
do. Sometimes they find the age
Yeah.
is
Even some adults. Yeah. Sure. Exactly. But certain sensibilities are just not geared for the kind of patience you need
yeah,
and
you need
persistence that this operation really demands of you. And you know even the most successful artists, they can tell you war stories about how many shows they had to play in how many days and horrible weather and
yeah,
conditions and the hotels and the clubs and just everything. It's just really it's this is but it's like you need to have that in order to almost appreciate your success if and when it comes.
yeah, that's so true.
If it's too easy, there's something you know you end up not appreciating it. I think as
Really
much. I think you have to work hard for it. Um, it means something. So
well said.
persevere,
Yeah.
persist,
Oh, this is
and
such an insightful interview. Wow, Mark, I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This
great, great,
is so
great.
cool to
Glad
talk
we could
to you.
do it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good luck with your career. I mean, we're very well connected back there, and you're a respected player, and I think good things are going to continue to come your way. It's pretty clear.
Oh, same here too. And you continue to like help so many people and interview so many incredible artists. It's super cool. And
Yeah, I hope you
I want
keep
to check
doing
out
it.
some of your playwrights too. Is there a website or a link to any films or anything?
No, I haven't posted anything. None of that is I've not looked back
Yeah,
at
yeah,
my screenwriting career. It's almost too painful in a way. So much you go through
yeah, right.
um, to get something made, to hold out for something, and that was my original passion, and I've moved on. It's not something that I dwell on.
Yeah,
It's part of life.
yeah.
And yeah, so I don't have a website for my screenwriting. Maybe I will. Who knows? Some point. Um, but I thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
Oh, it's
You
been
know,
great,
uh,
man.
haven't done a Zoom since our podcast went on hiatus, so it's good to get back in the running of that. And hope your viewers got something out of this.
Oh, I'm sure they will. This is so cool. Yeah, I look
Yeah.
forward to getting it up there and sending it to you. It might take a little while. I got so busy as a side person. I have like I think 10 or 11 that I need to like start,
Oh
getting up
wow.
there,
Okay.
put up
All
the
right. Well, just let me know. No rush. I know that's like, you do an article interview with somebody and you got to tell them, well, it's not going to get in for probably a month
right.
or more, So, they sometimes don't get that, but most of them are pretty patient. So I'm a patient guy. whenever you're ready, send me a link, and I'd love to see it, and we'll spread the word.
Oh, great. Sounds so cool. Thanks again. It was such a pleasure and
Okay.
an honor, really, to chat with you. Super cool.
Whatever, it's great to be able to hook up with you and hopefully help some people who are watching this right now. They need all the help they can get. Let me tell you, this is
Thanks
tough
for,
biz.
thanks for caring so much.
Okay. Have a good weekend.
Oh, you too, Mark. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Break the chain.